What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from Mtg. We like magic, here to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Tell you what I'm thankful for. First of all, all of you. You guys are awesome. Second of all, some Rivals of Ixalan spoilers. Like, the set is not supposed to come out until the 19th. That means that real spoilers are probably like a month away, but Wizards just keeps trickling out previews, and some of them look pretty awesome. So let's go over those. Well, the first thing we're going to look at today is Storm the Vault. This is 4 mana, 2 a blue and a red for a legendary enchantment. Hoity-toity. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you get a treasure token. We know all about those. And at the beginning of your end step, if you control 5 or more artifacts, not specifically treasures, but artifacts, transform Storm the Vault. And it transforms into Vault of the Catlacan. This is a legendary land that taps for a mana of any color, or you can tap it to add a blue to your pool for each artifact you control. So it's Tolarian Academy. Don't freak out or anything, but it's essentially Tolarian Academy. I really like that Wizards has been just essentially reprinting crazy lands for the last couple of sets, you know. And this one does not look hard at all to transform. Like, 4 mana is kind of a lot to get into play. But honestly, you can disregard the entire first bit of text there, and it's still a fine card. You know, it's ramp in a way that produces mana of any color if you wanted to. Don't think that that's lost on us here. Like, that's producing mana of any color is pretty sweet in decks that are going to try and play this. You know, Grixis Artifacts, Grixis Thopters lately comes to mind, and definitely, or Grixis Colossus, pretty obviously, could probably want to play this. You know, it fixes your mana in a couple of different ways. Gets you treasure, and once you flip it, any mana of whatever you want. And of course, tapping for every, blue for every artifact you control is just like legendarily broken, so it's crazy to see it again here. They reprinted Cradle, so of course they're going to go ahead and reprint Tolarian Academy. There's going to be no repercussions there, right? Seriously though, I have seen people like putting this card down online, and I don't get it. Card looks fantastic to me. Like, whether or not it finds a home in Standard is another story. You know, I talked about Grixis Artifact a second ago, but that's got 4 drops it already wants to play. Like, it wants to play Tezzeret. But it might be willing to give up Tezzeret to play this, man. I'm not sure. It's just a pretty crazy looking card that is actually not super hard to flip right now. I mean, there's not only like the Thopters deck and the Grixis Colossus deck, but there's, improvised decks, which sort of bleeds into the blue-red decks right now. And vehicles decks, there's decks that play 20 plus, sometimes like 28 different artifacts or artifact producers, so getting 5 out, not hard, not at all hard. And once you flip it, it's crazy mana for the rest of the game. So I am a fan here. We're definitely looking forward to brewing with it. I mean, all in all, this is probably like my favorite of the 3 cards I'm going to show you today. It's just super boss looking, and I like that, like, you can get a bunch of little artifacts out and then flip it over pretty easily, and then play like a big artifact with all that mana. There's a bunch of options to choose from right now. There's like Sky Sovereign, Gonti's Aetherheart, Paradox Engine, Panharmonicon. There's 100 different options, and there's actually one of the spoilers today is a decent option for using all that mana. So huge fan, glad that it exists. Gonna try and do some stuff with it. Whether or not this is one of those like $5 transform lands or one of those like $20 transform lands, all depends on what it ends up doing in Standard, but I'm kind of hoping it's more on the $5 edge, I want to do some cool budget stuff with this. But moving right along here, we got Tetsimoc, Death Primordial. That's 6 mana, 4 and 2 black for a 6/6 Death Touch Legendary Elder Dinosaur. Another one of these Elder Dinosaurs. It's looking like a 5-color cycle of these. You can pay black and reveal it from your hand to put a prey counter on target creature. You can only do that during your turn. And when it enters the battlefield, you destroy all creatures with a prey counter on them. Alright, so just the other day, in my Unstable preview video, I was talking about how, like, some cards in unsets are precursors to what will become real-life cards. And this feels an awful lot like Infernal Spawn of Evil. Like, do I have to say, like, it's coming whenever I reveal it from my hand? Do I get extra points for that or something? Like, I really like that ability ended up on, like, a real-life Magic card that we can play and constructed. But, I mean, all jokes aside, though, I'm not sure that I'm that impressed with the card. That said, though, I think it has a chance at seeing Standard play, especially out of the sideboard where it looks to be pretty stupid in the energy matchup. If the game goes a little bit longer, you can actually get to the 6-drop, then you can take out 2-3 of their creatures, and it's really decent looking, at least, against Bristling Hydra. I'm not sure about in practice, but in theory, at least, they'll have to pay 3 energy to keep from getting a prey counter on the Bristling Hydra, so that's probably worth it for your 1 black mana. A card looks pretty decent against Hydra. But it doesn't necessarily look great in, like, other matchups, like in aggro. I don't know that you'll ever get to it, and you have to, like, spend extra mana if you want to actually kill any of their dudes by the time it comes into place. I'm just not sure in aggro matchups if the card is that good. And in control, I don't know that you'll ever resolve it. And there won't be a whole ton of creatures to put prey counters on. So I think that in the one specific mid-range, the energy match, the card looks pretty decent. So maybe possibly a sideboard card. But as a 6-drop sideboard card, it competes with a couple of things, notably Carnage Tyrant. And I just don't know that it's much better than that either. But the cards fulfill different roles, so we'll see. I've seen some people like a little freaking out slightly about the stats, and I just don't get it. People, 6-mana, 6/6 Death Touch. It's like, yeah, we just had Gitrog Monsters, 5-mana, 6/6 Death Touch, and no one touched it, and it was such an awesome card. So I just don't know that increasing the mana one is going to make a 6/6 Death Touch playable. Obviously, I really worry that there's no spot in the meta for it, but we'll have to see what other cards come out around it, and like there's other stuff to compare it to. Like I think right now in the format, Noxious Gearhulk is probably better, like you don't have to spend any extra mana to kill a guy and you gain life, and it's an artifact which matters in a lot of the decks that Gearhulk finds itself in. So I'm just, I think that Noxious is probably the better card as of right this second, but we'll have to wait and see what this card ends up doing, because it's definitely probably worth something. Last thing I'll say about it is that I kind of like the reanimation angle here. And I like that, the one that put the prey counters on the creatures doesn't have to be the one that kills the creatures when it enters the battlefield. That's kind of cool. So if you, for instance, put like 2 prey counters on creatures with one in your hand, and then you reanimate another one out of your graveyard, doesn't matter that it's a different copy of Tetsimoc, it still kills creatures with prey counters on them. I think that's kind of interesting, and I do like this as a reanimation target, if you can set things up correctly. But setting things up correctly is kind of where this card falters for me. Going back to the Noxious Gearhulk example, obviously Tetsumaki can kill more creatures than Noxious Gearhulk, so it's got that in its favor, but Noxious Gearhulk always guarantees that you at least kill 1 creature, and it always costs 6 mana. If you want to kill 2 or 3 guys with a Tetsumaki, well, then you're spending 8 or 9 mana net on the card by the time it hits the battlefield, and I'm just not sure that's worth it either. But here's the last card of the day right here. It's the Immortal Sun. It costs 6 mana. It's a legendary artifact, and it's got lots of stuff that it does. First of all, players can't activate loyalty abilities of planeswalkers. Second of all, at the beginning of your draw step, you draw an additional card, and spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and creatures you control get +1/+1. So here's an instant commander staple with not much creativity put into its design. A lot of people are saying that. Like, this is just a bunch of good stuff splattered onto a card and priced at 6 mana, and is that good enough? Honestly, I can agree with people about the creativity of the design team when it comes to this card, but I'm always more into what the card's going to do and whether or not it's actually viable than the design process in a lot of ways. The card is definitely going to be a thing, so let's actually look at what it can do. Again, as far as EDH goes, shoe-in. Guaranteed, probably a staple immediately upon release. There's just kind of no question about that. And I'm not sure how Commander players feel about that, because honestly, there's not a whole lot of flavor behind this card, and it should be exciting, but it's like, sort of not. But look at all the stuff that it does for you, you know what I mean? But in constructed Magic, specifically standard Magic, I'm just not sure it's worth 6 mana, because it doesn't give you a whole lot of value the turn it enters the battlefield. It gives you the Anthem effect, yes, that's kind of good, but it doesn't really do anything else the turn it hits the battlefield, and that's a 6 mana investment to do almost nothing until the next turn, where it will start doing a lot of stuff for you. Honestly, I kind of feel like I would probably rather play Vanquisher's Banner in Standard than this. I mean, a whole, 5 to 6 mana is actually a huge difference that can be, 2 or 3 turns in a real-life game of Magic. So I think I'd rather pay 5, and, still get some card advantage and still get the Anthem effect, and by the time you have 6 mana, you might not care that spells you cast cost less, you know what I mean? So I really, really want to like this, but I just don't know that there's a place for it. Although, we just saw Open the Vaults, that was at the beginning of this, that transforms into Tolarian Academy, and this is a huge casting cost artifact you can easily play with a Tolarian Academy out. So there's that to consider too. I mean, there definitely might be a place for this in the upcoming Standard. I'm not going to count it out or anything. I mean, it's like 3 of the best abilities that you could want on a card, and then a 4th ability that locks out Planeswalkers, which is really good sometimes. So, you know, I'm not saying that the card is bad. The card is obviously good, but it's 6 mana too much to really have an effect in a constructed game of Magic. We'll see. We will see. And that's solid as spoilers for today right now. But there's other spoilers for other sets coming out. There's Unstable, which is still spoiling right now. And even though I haven't been covering the spoilers for Unstable, what I will do is I'll do a top 10 Unstable cards. And I really want to do like a top 10 Unstable cards that I wish were constructed legal. I'm really interested in doing that video. So there's going to be Unstable content coming up. Don't worry about that. But Rivals of Ixalan spoilers are going to start here in the next month or so. So make sure you sub if you haven't done that yet, or if you're new, you're going to want all that content, plus all the deck techs are putting out until then, plus all the deck techs are putting out when Rivals comes out. So lots of content you want to be there for. Sub if you're new, do all the things. Like the video if you enjoyed the video, and you can follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev. Do those things. Also, if you want a place to buy cards super cheap, you can check out TCG Player. They have super cheap cards, as a matter of fact. You can pre-order boxes of Unstable, that set we were just talking about, for like $95 from them. That's a really good price. And Iconic Masters boxes are about $160 right now, and the set just came out. And there's a lot of super awesome, super valuable, expensive cards in them. So you might want to give it a shot. So in any case, if you want stuff that's Magic related and you're here, so you might, go to TCG Player. They have said stuff. And to finish things off, if you want to kick me a buck, if you feel like doing it, you should do it over on patreon.com/SBMTG so you can know what decks we're doing the day before we do them. So do that stuff too. I mean, I'd really appreciate your help. I'm thankful for all of you, but I'm especially thankful for my patrons. You guys are freaking amazing, and I literally could not do this without you. So I appreciate you being there with me. But in any case, I'm pretty sure that's all I got for now. I'm tapped out for this one. I am Dev from The Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards.